There comes a time in life when the winds of despair howl through the chambers of the soul, rattling the foundation of all you once believed. You stand at the edge of your own existence, staring into the abyss of doubt, wondering if the hands that once cradled you have released their grip. The silence is deafening, the darkness unyielding, and the weight of loneliness settles on your chest like a stone pressed against fragile ribs. You call out, but the echo mocks you. You reach, but the space before you is void. It is in that moment, in that aching, breaking, trembling moment, that the greatest lie takes root in your mind. You are alone. Oh, but I tell you, the greatest trick of sorrow is to convince you that the hands of God have left you, that you have wandered too far, fallen too deep, strayed too wide for love to find you again. But what if I told you that you have never been alone, that even when your feet sank into the mud of failure, when your hands trembled from the weight of burdens too great for a single soul to bear, when your tears fell into the silence of the night with no comfort to dry them, what if I told you that even then the hands of God never left you? You were born into hands that shaped you from dust, molded your very being with precision and purpose. Before you even took your first breath, before your first cry split the silence of a world waiting for you, those hands were there. They crafted your spirit with intention, wove your existence into the fabric of time, and placed you upon a path that only you could walk. But life is an unrelenting storm, and storms do not ask for permission before they arrive. They tear through the peace of your days, ripping the roof from the home you built in your heart. You have known loss, you have known pain. You have seen doors slammed shut before you, heard the laughter of opportunity fading into the distance, watched the sun dip behind clouds too thick to let its light break through. And in those moments, you whispered the question no one ever wants to say aloud: where is God? You looked at the empty seat beside you and wondered why love left without a trace. You walked through the valley of sickness, dragging the weight of your own weary body, and asked why healing did not come when you pleaded for it. You fought battles that were never yours to fight, carried crosses never meant for your shoulders, and still the silence was louder than the cries of your soul. You thought yourself forgotten. You thought yourself abandoned. But let me tell you something about the hands of God. They do not operate in the realm of human understanding. They do not shake when the ground beneath you crumbles. They do not tremble when the storm rages. Do not falter when the night grows long. You think because you do not see them, they are not there. You think because you do not feel them, they have released their grip. Oh, child, faith is not the evidence of what is seen. Faith is the certainty that when your knees buckle under the weight of the world, those hands are still beneath you, holding you upright. You have mistaken the silence for absence. You have mistaken the struggle for abandonment. But do you not understand? The hands of God do not carry you to keep you from falling. They carry you so that even when you fall, you are never beyond the reach of love. Even when you sink, you are never beyond the grasp of mercy. Even when you break, you are never beyond the touch of healing. Look back just for a moment. Look back at the places you thought you would not survive, the nights you thought would never end, the pain you thought would swallow you whole, and yet here you stand, the breath of life still in your lungs, the fire of purpose still burning in your soul. Tell me, was it your own strength that kept you? Was it your own power that pulled you through? No, my dear, you were carried, you were cradled, you were held. When the world turned its back, when the people you trusted walked away, when the road you traveled crumbled beneath your feet, the hands of God were still upon you. They held you in the fire, not to burn you, but to refine you. They held you in the storm not to drown you, but to teach you how to stand even when the winds howl with fury. They held you in the darkness not to abandon you, but to remind you that even when you cannot see the light, you are never beyond its reach. You have never been forgotten. Not when you stumbled, not when you failed, not when you doubted, not when you feared, not when you ran so far that you could no longer recognize the road home. The hands that formed the mountains, that stretched the heavens, that carved the rivers, those same hands have never left you. They have carried you through the fire, through the flood, through the famine of your own faith. So what will you do now? Will you believe the lie that you are alone? Will you accept the whispers of despair that tell you you are forsaken? Or will you stand in the truth that has carried you from the moment you first opened your eyes? You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. The hands of God have never left you. The hands that shape the stars into constellations are the same hands that have cradled your soul through every storm. When you cried out in the silence, when your heart shattered beneath the weight of loss, when your dreams lay crumbled at your feet, those hands never pulled away. You may not have seen them, you may not have felt them, but their presence was never absent. The trouble with pain is that it blinds the soul, muffles the truth, deceives the heart into believing that suffering is the absence of divine love. But have you ever seen a diamond formed without pressure? Have you ever seen gold refined without fire? Have you ever seen a seed grow without first being buried in the darkness? Then why do you think your struggle is a sign of abandonment? Why do you believe that the hands which formed you would suddenly let you go when you need them most? The fire did not consume you. The waves did not wash you away. The valley of despair did not swallow you whole. You are still here, still breathing, still standing, even when you thought you had no strength left. That was not by accident. That was not by chance. The hands of God held you together when everything around you was falling apart. They steadied you when your knees buckled, lifted you when your spirit sank, guided you when you could not see the road ahead. There were times when you begged for an answer and heard nothing in return, times when you prayed with trembling lips and received no immediate relief, times when you felt unseen, unheard, unloved. But silence is not absence, and delay is not denial. You thought your prayers were ignored, but what if they were being answered in a way you could not yet understand? What if the no's and the not yets were not rejections, but redirections? What if the very thing you wept over losing was the thing that was never meant to stay? What if the closed doors were not punishments, but protection? You wanted the pain to end, but what if the pain was shaping you? You wanted the trial to pass, but what if the trial was preparing you? You wanted the struggle to be lifted, but what if the struggle was strengthening you? You only see the storm, but the hands of God see beyond it. You see the broken pieces, but those hands see the masterpiece in progress. You see the loss, but those hands see what is yet to come. Oh, if only you knew how tightly those hands have held you. If only you could see the times you were shielded from dangers you never even knew were near, the times you were redirected from paths that would have led to destruction, the times you were given not what you wanted, but what you needed. And even in your darkest hours, even when you turned your face away, even when you doubted, even when you ran, those hands never left you. Think back to the times you thought you would not survive, the moments when grief wrapped itself around your chest and stole the very air from your lungs, the days when your strength was spent, when you had nothing left to give, when hope itself seemed to slip through your fingers like sand, and yet here you are. You may be bruised, but you are not broken. You may be weary, but you are not defeated. You may carry scars, but those scars are proof that you made it through. Who do you think carried you? Who do you think sustained you? Do you truly believe that you survived on your own? that you made it through the fire without hands holding you steady, that you walked through the storm without hands shielding you from the fiercest winds, that you stood at the edge of your own breaking and somehow miraculously did not fall? No, my dear, you were held, you were covered, you were carried. And yet still you doubt, still you wonder, still you ask, where is God? You have searched for signs in the sky, for whispers in the wind, for miracles that announce themselves with flashing lights and thunderous voices. But have you not seen? Have you not heard? The evidence of those hands is all around you. It is in the breath in your lungs, in the beat of your heart, in the fact that after everything, after all the hurt, all the loss, all the nights of sorrow, you are still here. You have been kept not by accident, not by luck, not by coincidence, but by divine hands that have never once let you go. Even when you turned away, even when you doubted, even when you could not see the way forward, those hands never wavered, never weakened, never withdrew. And if those hands have never left you, what do you have to fear? If those hands have carried you this far, what makes you think they will fail you now? If those hands have held you through every storm, what makes you believe they will release you before the dawn? You are not alone. You have never been alone. You have never walked a single mile of this journey without those hands beside you, beneath you, before you. You have questioned, you have wept, you have wrestled with doubt, but those hands are patient. Those hands are kind. Those hands are strong enough to hold you even when you push them away. They do not force, they do not demand, they do not abandon. They wait. They wait for you to remember. They wait for you to trust. They wait for you to look back and see what has always been true. You may not feel them in every moment, but they are there. You may not understand their movements, but they are working. You may not always see the path ahead, but those hands are leading you still. They have guided you through valleys, across mountains, through the fiercest storms, and they will not fail you now. The hands of God have never left you. They will never leave you. You may stumble, but you will not fall beyond their reach. You may grow weary, but you will not be forsaken. You may wander, but you will always be found. Those hands formed you. Those hands hold you. Those hands will carry you home. You have walked through shadows so thick you thought they would consume you. You have wandered through valleys so deep you feared you would never climb out. You have felt the sting of rejection, the ache of loneliness, the weight of burdens too heavy for any one person to carry. And yet, through it all, you are still here. That is not an accident. That is not a coincidence. That is not the mere passing of time or the strength of your own will. No, my dear, you were held. Every tear that fell from your eyes, every sigh that escaped your lips, every silent prayer you whispered in the dead of night when no one else was watching, those hands caught every one. When you thought you were forgotten, you were still known. When you thought you were abandoned, you were still carried. When you thought you were lost, those hands were guiding you, even when you did not realize it. You have mistaken pain for punishment. You have mistaken struggle for separation. But do you not know that fire is the tool of refinement, that storms are the means of strengthening, that pruning is the way of growth? You have cursed the very things that were shaping you, resisted the very trials that were making you stronger, fought against the very process that was molding you into who you were always meant to be. You looked at your failures and thought they were final. You looked at your losses and thought they were the end. But what if I told you that nothing has been wasted? That every tear, every setback, every heartbreak has been woven into a tapestry greater than you can imagine? That the hands of God have been working, even in the very places you thought were barren, You have cried for things that were never meant to stay. You have begged for doors to open that were meant to remain shut. You have held on to people who were never meant to go with you to the next chapter. And when they left, when they walked away, when things fell apart, you thought it was a sign that you were alone. But what if it was protection? What if the very things you lost were the things that would have hindered you from stepping into the fullness of what is ahead? You see only what is right before you, but those hands see the whole picture. They see what you cannot. They see beyond the pain, beyond the confusion, beyond the heartbreak. They see the road you are meant to travel, and they are leading you even when you do not understand the way. There were times you thought you would break, times when the weight of sorrow was so great you did not think you could take another step. You lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the morning would bring relief or just another wave of the same battles. You moved through your days in a fog, carrying a heaviness no one else could see, smiling when necessary, but feeling hollow inside. And in those moments, in those aching, stretching, breaking moments, you wondered if you were truly alone. But you were never alone. Not when you wept, not when you doubted, not when you thought you had nothing left to give. The hands of God were there holding you together when everything else was falling apart. They were in the quiet strength that kept you from giving up. They were in the small mercies that carried you through the hardest days. They were in the moments of grace that came when you least expected them. You have survived things you never thought you would. You have walked through fire and emerged, not unscathed, but still standing. You have endured storms that threatened to drown you, and yet here you are. Do you not see? Do you not understand? The very fact that you are still here is proof that those hands have never left you. They have wiped your tears when no one else saw. They have lifted your head when shame tried to bow it low. They have steadied your trembling hands when fear threatened to paralyze you. They have cradled you in the moments when you thought you could not go on, and they are still holding you now. You may not always feel them. You may not always see them, but they are there, stronger than your doubt, greater than your fear, unshaken by your struggles. They are not moved by your failures, not withdrawn by your mistakes, not hesitant in your weakest moments. Those hands are steadfast, unchanging, unwavering. You think you have wandered too far? Think again. You think you have fallen too deep? You are still within reach. You think your mistakes have disqualified you? Oh, if only you knew how relentless those hands are. They will not let you go. They will not release you to despair. They will not leave you in the depths of sorrow. They will always reach for you, always lift you, always pull you back into the light. So why do you fear? Why do you listen to the whispers that tell you you are forgotten? Why do you allow the shadows of doubt to convince you that you are alone? The hands that created you, the hands that shaped you, the hands that have carried you every step of the way have never left you. They have been with you in your joy, in your pain, in your triumphs, in your losses. They have held you in your strength and in your weakness, in your faith and in your doubt, in your laughter and in your sorrow. Even now they are with you. Even now they are working. Even now they are holding you together, whispering to your soul, reminding you that you are never beyond their grasp. You may feel lost, but you are found. You may feel broken, but you are being made whole. You may feel weary, but you are being renewed. Do not let your feelings deceive you. Do not let your fears control you. Do not let your struggles define you. The hands that have carried you this far will not let you go now. They have never let you go. They have never loosened their grip. They have never once, not for a single moment, abandoned you. Look around. Look back. Look within. You will see the evidence of those hands in every part of your life, in the moments you thought you would not make it, in the places you never expected to find peace, in the strength you did not think you had, in the love that found you when you needed it most. You were never alone. You are not alone now. You will never be alone. The hands of God have never left you. They never will. You have walked through seasons of silence where every prayer seemed to echo into emptiness. You have stretched out your hands for answers, only to grasp the stillness of waiting. You have searched for signs, for miracles, for a voice that would part the heavens and make the path clear. And when no sign appeared, when no voice thundered from above, you wondered if those hands had released you, if the presence that once felt near had faded into nothingness. But silence does not mean absence. Waiting does not mean forgotten. There is a refining in the quiet, a deep work in the stillness, a transformation in the seasons where it seems like nothing is moving at all. You see, there is strength being built in you even when you do not feel it. There is endurance growing in you even when you cannot see it. The hands that formed you are not idle. They are not passive. They are not standing by as you struggle. No, they are weaving together every moment, every tear, every triumph, every setback into something beyond what you can imagine. Those hands have never stopped working, never stopped shaping, never stopped guiding you toward what was meant for you all along. But you must understand that not all growth feels like growth. Sometimes it feels like breaking. Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like standing in the middle of nowhere, uncertain, weary, wondering if you are even moving forward at all. But just because you cannot see the destination does not mean the road is leading nowhere. Just because you cannot trace the next step does not mean those hands are not leading you. You are not abandoned in the process. You are being prepared. Think back to all the times you thought you were at the end, the nights when sorrow weighed so heavily on your chest that you could hardly breathe, the mornings when getting out of bed felt like a battle all on its own, the moments when disappointment whispered lies into your ear, convincing you that you were forgotten, forsaken, unloved. But here you are. You are still standing. You are still moving. You are still pressing forward, even on the days when you did not know if you could. Who do you think sustained you? Who do you think carried you? Who do you think gave you the strength to take even one more step? There was never a moment when you were without those hands, not in the chaos, not in the confusion, not in the heartbreak, not in the wilderness. You may have felt lost, but those hands knew exactly where you were. You may have questioned the journey, but those hands never wavered. You may have cried out in frustration, wondering why the road was so difficult, but those hands never loosened their grip on you. They have led you through valleys you did not think you would survive. They have walked with you through storms you thought would break you. They have held you steady when everything around you was shifting, shaking, falling apart. And even now, those hands are still holding you. Even now, they are still working. Even now, they are still leading you toward what has always been meant for you. You may not understand the journey, but those hands do. You may not see the purpose in the struggle, but those hands do. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but those hands do. They have never left you. They have never forsaken you. They have never turned away from you, even in your weakest, most broken, most doubtful moments. You see, love does not let go. Love does not abandon. Love does not walk away when the road gets difficult. And you have been held by a love so deep, so strong, so unwavering that nothing, no trial, no mistake, no fear, no darkness can separate you from it. Those hands have loved you at your best and your worst. They have held you in your moments of triumph and in your moments of despair. They have carried you when you could not walk, strengthened you when you had nothing left to give, lifted you when you were too weary to stand. You have questioned, You have doubted, you have wondered if those hands were really there. But they have been. Every step, every breath, every moment, they have been holding you. And they are holding you still, even when you do not feel it, even when you do not understand it, even when everything in you wants to give up and turn away. Those hands refuse to let you go. So do not let the weight of today make you forget how far you have already come. Do not let the fear of the unknown make you believe that you are walking this road alone. Do not let the whispers of doubt convince you that you are beyond the reach of love, beyond the reach of mercy, beyond the reach of grace, because you are not. You never have been, you never will be. Look back on your journey. Look at the places where you thought you would never recover, never heal, never find joy again. Look at the moments that threatened to break you, the seasons that stretched you beyond what you thought you could bear, and yet you endured. You rose, you walked through fire and did not burn. You faced storms and did not drown. You bore burdens that should have crushed you, but instead, you are still here, still breathing, still moving forward. That is not by accident. That is not by luck. That is not by your own strength alone. That is evidence of the hands that have never left you. That is proof that you have been carried through every hardship, through every dark night, through every tear-stained season of your life. And if those hands have held you through it all, why would they let you go now? If they have never left you, why would they start now? There is more ahead for you. There is more than the pain of yesterday, more than the disappointments of the past, more than the sorrow you thought would define you. Those hands are not done working. They are not done shaping. They are not done leading you into everything you were created to be. And though you may not see the full picture yet, though you may still be in the middle of the process, trust this, you are not alone. You have never been alone. You will never be alone. So keep walking, keep believing, keep trusting. The hands that have never left you will carry you still. There were moments when you thought you had reached your limit, when the weight of the world pressed so heavily upon you that you could not see how you would make it through. The nights stretched long, filled with questions too deep to voice, fears too real to dismiss. You looked around and saw others moving forward while you felt stuck, unseen, forgotten. And in that silent suffering, you wondered if you had been abandoned. You wondered if those hands had loosened their grip, if you had somehow fallen out of reach. But my dear, what if I told you that the very silence you feared was not absence, but preparation? What if I told you that even in the moments when you could not feel those hands, they were still there, working, shaping, steadying? You see, there are seasons when the hands that hold you do not remove the struggle, not because they have left you, but because they are teaching you to stand. There are seasons when they do not speak, not because they have abandoned you, but because they are growing your trust. And there are seasons when they do not rescue you immediately, not because they do not love you, but because they know the strength that is being built within you. You have been carried in ways you do not even realize. When you thought you were barely surviving, you were being sustained. When you thought you were overlooked, you were being guarded. When you thought the storm would never end, those hands were holding you steady, making sure you would not be swept away. You do not always see the rescue while you were in the storm, but when you look back, you will see the way you were held. Think of the moments when you almost gave up, when despair whispered that it would be easier to let go, to stop hoping, to stop fighting, to stop believing. Yet somehow, even in the depths of your sorrow, something kept you holding on. It was not your own strength alone. It was not simply time passing or wounds healing on their own. No, it was those hands. They placed hope in you when you had none left. They whispered life into you when you felt empty. They surrounded you with unseen grace, lifting you when you had no strength of your own. You may not have realized it, but those hands were there when the friend called you, just when you needed someone to listen, They were there when a door opened that you never expected. They were there when peace came in the middle of a storm you thought would destroy you. Those hands have never stopped moving, never stopped working, never stopped holding you. And still you doubt. Still you wonder if you are truly seen. Still you question whether you are worthy of such care. You think of all your mistakes, all your shortcomings, all the times you have stumbled, and you wonder if those hands would ever let go of someone like you. But do you not see? The hands that hold you have never been dependent on your perfection. They have never required you to be without flaw, without struggle, without weakness. They hold you not because of who you are, but because of who they are. Love does not let go because of failure. Love does not withdraw because of imperfection. And the hands that hold you have never been shaken by your mistakes. They do not retreat when you struggle. They do not hesitate when you doubt. They do not release you when you are weak. If anything, they grip you even tighter. They draw you even closer. They hold you even firmer because they know that in your weakness, you need them more. You have been trying to carry things that were never meant for you to bear alone. You have held on to burdens that should have been released long ago. You have tried to be strong for everyone, to push through, to keep going, even when you felt like collapsing under the weight of it all. And yet, even in your exhaustion, even in your weariness, those hands have never asked you to carry it all alone. They have been there, waiting for you to surrender, waiting for you to release what was never yours to hold, waiting for you to trust that you do not have to do this by yourself. It is not weakness to lean into those hands. It is not failure to admit that you need to be held. It is not defeat to recognize that you were never meant to navigate this life alone. You were created to be carried, to be guided, to be strengthened by something greater than yourself. You were not meant to wander without direction, to struggle without support, to endure without comfort. Those hands were always meant to hold you, to lead you, to keep you. So let go of the guilt that tells you that you have not done enough. Let go of the shame that whispers that you are too broken to be loved. Let go of the fear that convinces you that you are too far gone to be found. Those hands have never left you. They have never loosened their grip. They have never once thought of letting you slip away. Even now they are working. Even now they are mending the pieces of your heart that have been shattered. Even now they are restoring what was lost, renewing what was broken, rebuilding what seemed beyond repair. You may not see the full picture yet, but those hands do. You may not understand the purpose of the path you are walking, but those hands know exactly where it leads. And though you may feel weary, though you may feel uncertain, though you may feel as if you have nothing left to give, those hands are strong enough to carry you. They are gentle enough to soothe your wounds. They are steady enough to guide your steps. And they will never, ever let you go. So rest in that. Rest in the knowledge that you are held. Rest in the assurance that you are not forgotten. Rest in the truth that you are never beyond reach. Those hands have never left you, and they never will. You have walked through days that felt endless, carrying burdens no one else could see, pushing forward when every part of you longed to stop. You have stood at the edge of despair, staring into the unknown, wondering if the road ahead held anything more than sorrow. You have cried out in frustration, asking if there was meaning in the struggle, if there was a reason for the suffering, if the hands that formed you had somehow forgotten your name. But, oh, if only you could see what has been happening beneath the surface. If only you knew that even in your darkest moments, even in your loneliest nights, those hands never loosened their hold on you. There is a refining in the breaking, a strengthening in the stretching, a wisdom being built in the waiting. You do not see it yet, but you are being shaped into something far greater than you could imagine. You are being prepared for doors you have not yet walked through, for blessings you have not yet touched, for healing that has already begun deep within you. And though it is not yet fully bloomed, though it is still unfolding, those hands have already set everything in motion. It is in the silence that trust is tested. It is in the unanswered questions that faith is formed. It is in the uncertainty that you learn to rely not on what you see, but on what has been promised. You see, if you always had the answers, if every step was clear, if the path was always smooth, you would never learn the strength that comes from walking by faith. You would never develop the endurance that comes from holding on when everything in you wants to let go. You would never understand the depth of love that refuses to abandon you even in your weakest, most fragile moments. But those hands know what you need even when you do not. They know when to lift you and when to let you stand. They know when to carry you and when to strengthen you so you can walk on your own. They know when to shield you from storms and when to let you walk through them, knowing that on the other side you will emerge stronger, wiser, more unshakable than before. You have faced battles that no one else knew about. You have fought wars within yourself, wrestling with doubt, with fear, with the wounds of the past. You have questioned your worth, your purpose, your place in this world. And yet those hands have never wavered. They have never hesitated. They have never once questioned whether you were worthy of being held. They knew your value before you took your first breath. They saw your worth before you ever proved a thing. And they have never, not for a single moment, considered letting you go. Do you not see? You have been carried through storms you thought would consume you. You have been sustained in moments when you had nothing left. You have been protected from dangers you never even saw. You have been covered in grace even when you did not recognize it. Those hands have shielded you from things that would have broken you, redirected you from paths that would have led to destruction, lifted you when you were too weary to stand on your own. And if those hands have been faithful before, why would they fail you now? You may be walking through fire, but you will not be burned. You may be surrounded by waters, but you will not drown. You may be in the wilderness, but you are not lost. You are being led step by step, moment by moment, by hands that have never left you. Hands that know exactly where you are going, hands that will not rest until you have stepped fully into everything that was meant for you. And yet I know there are days when you still struggle to believe. I know there are nights when you still wonder if you are truly seen. I know there are moments when you question whether those hands are really holding you, because the pain still comes, the losses still happen, the trials still press in. And you wonder, if you are truly held, if you are truly loved, then why must you endure such suffering? But love does not always remove the struggle. Love does not always shield you from the fire. Sometimes love allows the refining. Sometimes love allows the testing. Sometimes love allows the breaking, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you stronger, to remove what was never meant to remain, to shape you into the person you were always meant to be. And through it all, those hands never leave you. They do not let you break beyond repair. They do not let you fall beyond saving. They do not let you walk one step of this journey alone. There are lessons you are learning now that will serve you in the days to come. There is strength being built in you now that you will need for what is ahead. There is a depth of character, of resilience, of unwavering faith being forged in you that could not have been formed any other way. And though it is hard, though it stretches you, though it tests you, those hands are not letting it destroy you. They are using it to prepare you, to equip you, to transform you. So do not mistake the process for abandonment. Do not confuse the struggle with being forgotten. Do not believe the lie that you are walking this road alone. You are being carried even when you do not feel it. You are being sustained even when you do not see it. You are being loved even when everything in you questions whether you are worthy of it. Look back on your life. Look at all the ways you have been held. Look at all the times you thought you would not make it, yet here you are. Look at all the moments when you thought the pain would be permanent, yet healing came. Look at all the doors that closed, only for something greater to come in their place. Look at all the tears that fell, only to be turned into strength, into wisdom, into a testimony of survival. You were not left behind. You were not forsaken. You were not forgotten. Those hands have been guiding you all along. And even now they are working. Even now they are leading. Even now they are holding you in a grip so strong, so steady, so unwavering that nothing, no fear, no failure, no sorrow, no doubt can tear you away. So do not give up now. Do not let go now. Do not allow the weight of the journey to make you forget who is holding you. There is more ahead for you. There is more than the pain of the past, more than the struggles of today, more than the doubts that try to shake your faith. Those hands are not finished writing your story. They are not done molding you into the person you were always meant to be. They are not done leading you into the fullness of your purpose, into the depths of your calling, into the beauty of everything that has been set aside for you. You may not see the full picture yet, but those hands do. You may not understand why the road has been so hard, but those hands know exactly where it leads. And though you may feel weary, though you may feel uncertain, though you may feel like you have nothing left to give, those hands are strong enough to carry you. They are gentle enough to soothe your wounds. They are steady enough to guide your steps, and they will never, ever let you go. So walk forward in faith, walk forward in trust, walk forward knowing that no matter what comes, no matter what trials arise, no matter what storms try to shake you, you are not walking alone. Those hands are holding you, steadying you, covering you, leading you, and they always will. You have walked through storms that should have shattered you, yet here you stand. You have endured nights that stretched long with sorrow, yet morning still found you. You have questioned, doubted, wrestled with fear, yet love has never loosened its grip on you. Those hands that formed you, that shaped you, that carried you through fire and flood have never left you. They have been your shelter in chaos, your strength in weakness, your compass when the path was unclear. So do not let your heart be troubled. Do not let fear convince you that you are alone. Do not let sorrow tell you that you have been forgotten. You are held, you are known, you are deeply, fiercely loved. The same hands that brought you through yesterday will carry you into tomorrow. They will never let you go. They have never left you, and they never will.